Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast with Bryce Johnson. It's a show that unpacks sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world. Enjoy inspiring conversations and thought-provoking interviews. You'll hear stories from people that will inspire, challenge, and encourage you. Now, from the Unpacking It studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, uniting sports fans everywhere, here is Bryce Johnson.
Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast, where we unpack sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world. I'm Bryce Johnson, excited to be joined today by Reid Ferguson, long snapper for the Buffalo Bills. We'll get to him in just a moment, but let me ask you this. Do you need health insurance? We'll get quotes for individual health insurance plans at healthmarketgenius.com. That's healthmarketgenius.com. Know your options. Also, be sure to check out our website, unpackingit.com. And while you're there, you can sign up to receive our weekday email devotional. We call it Unpack This. It's a quick thought about sports, faith, and life delivered directly to your email inbox. And man, we are still churning them out, even though the sports world is on hold. Man, we've been talking just about free agency in the NFL and just the idea that sports aren't going on, and it triggers a lot of different topics and feelings and reasons to look to the Bible. So be encouraged. Check out unpackingit.com and sign up to receive Unpack This. Also, stick around at the end of the interview with Reid. I'll give you just a quick wrap-up, and one of the topics we discussed I'll unpack a little bit further and kind of reiterate what we were discussing, because it's a really just kind of interesting thing to understand, think about, and hopefully it's an encouragement to you listening today. And then also I'll ask him about the Buffalo Bills and how he's feeling about the new team. And what's interesting, their big move in the offseason was Stefon Diggs and trading for Stefon Diggs. But I feel like they gave up a lot. They gave up a lot to get him. And it is interesting that DeAndre Hopkins went to Arizona. Arizona didn't have to give up as much. Now, unless you value David Johnson as a running back a lot. But those two trades are just kind of interesting to compare, and who will have a bigger impact next year. How good will Stefon Diggs be as the go-to wide receiver? How will he complement John Brown, Cole Beasley? What will Buffalo do at tight end? Devin Singletary is a nice running back. Who will they have to complement him this coming year? And then Josh Allen. Will he take another step now that they have Stefon Diggs? He did a lot last year. A lot of it was with his feet. Will he get the ball downfield? How big of a weapon will Stefon Diggs be? How much did he benefit playing opposite Adam Thielen, who I'm a huge fan of, huge Adam Thielen fan. And so how will Adam Thielen do in Minnesota without Stefon Diggs? So that'll be interesting too. So we talked a little bit about the Bills on the podcast today, but man, we hear all about his story, being a long snapper, his faith journey, and his brother plays at LSU and is hoping to be drafted or at least get into the NFL as an undrafted free agent. And so we'll hear all about that as well. So thanks for being with us, and let's jump right in to Reid Ferguson.
Intriguing guests and inspiring conversations. This is Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson.
And joining us now on the Unpacking It podcast is Reid Ferguson. He is the long snapper for the Buffalo Bills. He played his college football at LSU and was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Bills in 2016 and has a unique story, an interesting story, and so we're excited to have him on the show today. Reid, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we're thrilled to have you on, and from what I understand, yesterday was your birthday. So how was it, and happy birthday.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, it was. It was kind of a unique way to celebrate a birthday, being, with the whole situation going on and having to kind of just stay hunkered down. But no, it was good. I've got my fiance and then my brother, who is actually training for the upcoming NFL draft. He's living at home with me right now, so we're doing a lot of our training together. So it was the three of us, and we had a good time. And I got the grill out last night, so that was awesome. But I'm just trying to make the most of it.
That's cool. Well, what do you like to grill? What would you grill last night?
We did chicken and steaks. It was phenomenal. And then I've got a smoker in Buffalo that I like to use, but I don't have that currently at my house here in Atlanta. Unfortunately, I would have loved to do some ribs last night, but pick and choose.
No, I hear you. Well, we'll talk about the virus and all that kind of thing. But one other thing I wanted to mention to you is you grew up in Atlanta. You still live in Atlanta, but you, of course, play with the Buffalo Bills. So we were talking beforehand. You got to stay in Atlanta because the weather's tough in Buffalo. So how'd you kind of work that out to be able to stay in Atlanta while also playing with the Buffalo Bills?
I grew up here in Atlanta, mostly on the north side of the city in Alpharetta. Went to school in Beaufort on kind of the northeast side of the city. And then after my brother left for LSU, my parents moved over here to Smyrna, kind of on the west side, as they became empty nesters. And once I was doing my training and signed up with Buffalo, just kind of knowing how much time we got for the off season, et cetera, all that kind of stuff, all that good stuff. I wanted to kind of set up a home base that wasn't in that really cold weather. I kind of wanted to be able to, travel and enjoy my off season kind of in some warm weather, because, half the season, November, December, you're up in Buffalo and it's freezing cold. So just to get away from it a little bit, that was kind of my main thing. And then I've got season tickets to the soccer team, Atlanta United, down here that I really love to follow. So that's another reason for me to come down here in the off season and enjoy my time here.
That's awesome. Very cool. So when I was young, I lived in Rochester, New York, outside of Buffalo, and then my family moved to Charlotte, and we've never looked back. So I understand the desire to stay in the South and be in the South with the weather and all that. So it makes sense. Well,
right.
Well, man, so you had to celebrate your birthday at home, and of course everybody's hunkered down right now. So how has this whole virus situation affected you personally, and how is it affecting just kind of your schedule and life and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it has, yeah, and to your point, it's been crazy, but it hasn't really affected me a ton, I would say, so far, fortunately, but, it's, I guess, no more than anybody else. It's, trying to find the new normal, as of, right now, taking, given your current situation, but, it's just, I don't have, an at-home gym. I don't have, a lot of home workout stuff because I've got, a handful of gyms around me that I'm available, usually available to go to. So I've never really worried about that, except for right now. But, just kind of trying to find at-home workouts that I feel are giving me a good enough workout to where I'm not lifting weights, but, I can do a lot of body weight stuff. I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at, but, still getting out and be able to snap with my brother and kind of help him train. And then, of course, making sure I've got enough toilet paper.
Actually, man, we're running out at my house, so we're in trouble. I went to the grocery store yesterday.
By Target. My brother found some at Target this morning. So if you find your way over there today, they might have some. Yeah,
I got to start getting aggressive. So yeah, I went somewhere yesterday. They were wiped out. So I don't want to get in trouble there. But man, well, so you mentioned your brother Blake, and he just is leaving LSU, hoping to make it to the NFL as well, and kind of following in your footsteps. And of course, LSU just won the championship a month or two ago. And so explain kind of to our listeners a little bit about the dynamic between you and your brother, and just the fact that both of you are long snappers, which is, it's such a unique position, a rare position to not only make it in college, but definitely in the NFL, 32 spots. And so he's fighting for that himself. So what is that dynamic like between you two?
Yeah, I guess you would say it's a good dynamic. He came in, he redshirted my senior year at LSU. So I was able to spend some time with him, kind of in that phase of our life, as I was, going through my last year snapping, and he was, just coming into college. I was able to take him under my wing and kind of show him the ropes, during that phase of our life. Now, we reached this next stage where it's a much bigger scale of what's, I don't want to say of what's at risk, but of what's at stake, I guess is a better phrase. But, I would say it's been good for me to have him here, because this is really the most time that we've spent together since we lived together when we were both in high school. So it's been good to kind of, to relax and talk with him and kind of, really spend some quality time, because other than holidays over the past, 8 years, that's kind of the only time we've gotten to spend together at home. So it's been good. I've enjoyed it, but just really teaching him, some of the blocking schemes, techniques, different things to watch for, kind of how to integrate yourself into a new team. That's all important stuff that he's going to have to know, here soon when he gets picked up by a team.
Yeah, and then what's kind of your encouragement to him, but then also just the reality that, man, there's only 32 spots in the NFL. I mean, it's such a rare position. And so what is kind of your perspective on that, and how have you been able to just help him understand that reality?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've kind of reached back a little bit to when I was coming out in 2016, you have to be comfortable with your skill level to know that, yes, you are good enough to play in this league, but at this position, I mean, I guess you could say at any position, but at the specialist position, timing is everything. It's being available when a spot opens up, being on call when whoever, some guy goes down with an injury and the team is calling you Sunday evening after the game and they say, hey, we need to fly you in for a workout tomorrow. It's being available and being that guy that picks up the phone and is able to get somewhere immediately and taking advantage of that opportunity. And whether or not it happened, he could get drafted. He's the number one guy coming out, so he's got a good chance, potentially, being picked up in the draft. But 99 percent of the time that doesn't happen. One guy gets drafted a year, maybe. Yeah. So if you are fortunate enough to get drafted, you're still going to have to fight for a spot, most likely, because chances are most teams will have another guy competing with a rookie. Even though you did get drafted, it's kind of your spot to lose, but you still have to go out there and perform and win the job, because the team is not going to put you out there if they're not confident you can get the job done. If it doesn't happen, worst case, you come home like I did. 2016, I went all the way through training camp. I was first cuts after the third preseason game with Buffalo, and I came home and I was basically home for 2 months. That first 2 months of the season, just working out, trying to find out. I was walking dogs for about $100 a week.
Oh, wow.
I was living at home, but I didn't have a lot of expenses, but, I was fortunate enough in that position to be in that position, but, it's, you've got to find it in yourself to where, that you're good enough to play, and you have, and faith, going back to the original, the original reason we're talking here on this podcast, the faith that I had in God, that he had a plan for me. And my parents are a big part of that for keeping me encouraged. But I knew God had a plan for me. I knew I was good enough to play in the NFL. And I knew that if I kept putting my best foot forward, that it would eventually all work out. And, 4 years later, God has been he's blessed me with a lot of great opportunities. And one of those opportunities is to play for the Buffalo Bills. And I've enjoyed every bit of that. But I know I'm getting a little long-winded here, but
no,
I guess the ultimate answer to your question would be just encouraging him that, if it doesn't work out the first time, if it doesn't work out the second, third, fourth time, there's a handful of guys that I know in the league at the long snapper position that it took them 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds of workouts with, these guys. There's some guys that are snapping in the league right now that are a couple years in, they're maybe 30 years old, because it took them 4 or 5 years to get in, and they had workouts with maybe 20 teams. So, and that's what it goes back to, the timing aspect of it. You never know when it's going to hit. And you just have to be ready and keep yourself in the best position to be there when your name is called.
That's right. And really, that's great advice for all of us, regardless of the job or whatever opportunity we're waiting for. But man, I mean, long snapping is such a unique skill, and that position, you're right. I mean, so many guys, their stories bouncing around different teams or waiting for the call. And we've actually had multiple guys on the show. I mean, Clint Gresham and JJ Jansen and Matt Overton and a bunch of different guys have been a part of the show. So we've heard some of that perspective, and it's always fascinating to me, just that position. And then to hear that, all right, here you are, an elite, one of 32 right now, and then your brother's coming in as the top-ranked guy coming in out of college. And so I just got to ask, how did both of you, pursue long snapping, and really, how did both of you end up getting to such a high level?
Yeah, so I started when I was in 8th grade. Our center and long snapper got hurt. I was playing tight end and defensive end at the time, but I wasn't really playing. I was just, another guy on the team. So my dad, I had gotten to the point where I was thinking about just stop playing because I wasn't getting on the field. So my dad, hey, maybe you should try out long snapping. It's a way to get on the field. It's something we could practice, at home. I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll give it a shot. Why not? Started going to camps all throughout, my first couple years of high school. Went to camps all through high school, but started going to a couple camps into my 8th grade year. And then, I was working on it all the time. I mean, I was practicing, 6 a.m. before school. But that's the kind of dedication that it takes to kind of get to where we are now. But, a lot of practice over the years, but, and then I think, and my brother started when he was in 7th grade. We're 3 years apart. So when I was in 10th grade, he was in 7th grade, he started long snapping, and, we've pushed each other a lot over the years. I've tried to, as the older brother, I've tried to, set a good example for him and kind of set, expectations, that he can aim to exceed on his way to potentially playing in this league someday. So, he was the starter on, I was a starter on varsity. He was a starter on varsity. I played for 4 years at LSU. He played for 4 years at LSU.
Wow.
Now, I'm snapping in the league, going into year 5, and, he's going into the draft this year, hoping to make it in the league. So, I just feel that it's my responsibility to set the best example I can. And I feel like I've done that so far.
I love it. And then I was reading too that your parents have never missed a game. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
For both of you.
That is right. I don't know how they do it, but
Wow.
they do it. They crush it, and they would not miss a game for the world.
Oh, that's neat.
It's amazing.
I'd love to hear that. And then for you were at the LSU championship game. And so what was that like, watching your brother win and kind of being on the other side as a fan, watching your alma mater win it all, and then specifically watching your brother win it?
I mean, that night was just absolutely incredible. I mean, it's no words, really to describe seeing your little brother, and, the alma mater thing kind of comes second, but to see your little brother my little protege, kind of, he snapped great. Just to see him reach basically the peak of college football, it was an incredible night, and I'll never forget it for sure.
I bet. Did you watch it with your parents in the crowd or on the sideline?
Yeah, well, I got to go down the sideline pregame just to visit with Blake a little bit, but I watched the game from the seats.
Cool. Well, man,
that was awesome.
Love hearing just a little bit about your football journey and just the relationship with your brother, and it's just it's really neat to hear. I've got 2 younger brothers, so I know that bond, and it's awesome. So, but I also know that your faith is really important to you, and you alluded to it a little bit, and so would love to hear just some of your faith journey, and specifically what have been some of the key turning points and some of the times where you really feel like you've grown in your faith and God has really, just done some incredible work in your life.
Absolutely. So grew up in the church, grew up in the Baptist church here in Georgia. We're going to church every Sunday, doing Awana on Sunday nights.
Yeah,
I kind of the whole 9 yards. But
I did that.
Yeah, it's something I enjoyed when I was growing up. But yeah, it kind of going through high school, being a part of the FCA at our high school. I enjoyed that. We would rotate once a week after practice, and different guys would host a Bible study. So I would do that every couple of weeks in front of a group of guys on the team after a practice during the week.
Wow.
I really enjoyed doing that, and looking back on it, I'm kind of amazed that able to kind of do that at that age. But and then just kind of feeding into college. And I'm comfortable enough in my faith now, but the first couple of years, you go off to college, you're not in the house anymore. You drift, and I'm not afraid to say that happened to me. I drifted kind of my first 2 years of college, went to church occasionally, but not regularly like I should have. And then my last 2 years, I kind of got back into it, and then got more involved in the FCA program at the school. And then when I kind of left, that's when I kind of was, I guess you could say, upping or increasing my prayer regimen, because I felt like God, if I prayed more and if I was more obedient, that God would bless me with a chance to play, on an NFL team. That's kind of how I felt, in the beginning of the draft process. Which looking back on it, it was not, fully the right thing for me to do. God has a plan for me, no matter how much I pray, he knows what is best for us, even when we don't ask him. So, as the draft process went on, I really, really started to focus more on my faith, going to church. Since I was living back at home, I was going to church every Sunday, doing devotionals during the week, lots, still continuing lots of prayer. But then it kind of turned into, I don't know the right phrasing, but I kind of returned to being more comfortable with myself and where I was with my faith, to the point where I was fully trusting, God's plan for me as I was going through going through that time, going through that process when so much can change for an athlete's life. That's a pretty impressionable time period, but I was fully content with giving it all to God. Just understanding that it's not what I do or how much good I do. It's not a work-based religion. It's really focusing on that personal relationship that I had with Jesus Christ. And, through daily prayer and through daily devotionals, I was just able to reach that point of comfortability and trusting God's plan and knowing that he had my best interests in mind. And I think, as odd as it is to say, I think that when I did get cut, I felt so good about my performance going through the whole off season and training camp and then getting cut. I felt so good after I was released about my performance that I knew, kind of going back to what I said earlier, I knew that I was good enough to play in this league for someone, whether it was going back to Buffalo or going somewhere else. And that gave me comfort. I wasn't stressed about anything. I knew that it was all in his hands. And in the next day, I actually had a workout with the Seahawks. So I flew out to Seattle like the 2 days later after I got cut, and had a workout with Seattle. That obviously didn't work out, but I just knew that there was a plan in place, and if I kept trusting in the Lord, that He would provide for me. The rest is history. But
that's awesome.
It's been really great. And I'll just touch for a minute. Our team chaplain, when the new regiment came in, Coach McDermott, and I'm sure you're familiar from living in Carolina, but when McDermott and Bean came to Buffalo, they brought a guy named Lynn Vandenboss with them to be the team chaplain. And Lynn was in Chicago. He worked for the Bears for a while, and then also worked with the Ravens for a couple years. But he's our team chaplain and has been for 3 years now. And he has been one of the biggest blessings to me in my life. I mean, his door is always open. And a side note, he's actually marrying my fiance and I at our wedding. No, he has been a huge blessing to me and really to our whole team. But he holds chat. We do a 30-minute chapel Saturday night before a Sunday game. We have Monday Bible study to go over what we did in chapel. On Thursday nights, we have family night where somebody will host, and a bunch of couples will get together and we'll do a Bible study on Thursday. So it's really, we're getting in the Word 3 times a week with our teammates, and it's it's really making a difference in our team. And the guys that we have on our team are incredible, and they're really feeding into it, and it's been great to watch.
Oh man, no, it's encouraging to hear, and really just appreciate you sharing your story. And there's kind of 2 parts that I want to maybe unpack a little bit further. And it was the part where you were talking about how you're thinking, okay, I'm going to pray more, I'm going to do more, and I'm hoping to get something in return. You want to get to the NFL, and you're like, all right, if I do all these things, then, and that's the mentality. And I guess I just want to relate to that, and I know that people listening can relate to that mentality. And I just finished a book today called The Cure, and it's all about grace, and there's a lot of different topics in it, but this I'm passionate about kind of discussing this, is the idea that we think that we just have to, do more and be better, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to try to earn God's either favor or God's blessings, and ultimately, He just wants us to trust Him. He wants us to love Him and rest in His grace, and we'll end up praying more because we want to be with Him, and we want to communicate, and we want Him to be a part of every aspect of our life, and whether He answers the prayers exactly how we think He should, or whether He doesn't, and we go through suffering and tough times and disappointment, all of it is part of his plan, and He works it for our good, and to rest in that is so important. But I think I'm with you as someone who grew up in the church, and we get caught up in, we got to go to this many Bible studies, or I got to spend this much time with the Lord, and it can become an obligation, it can become out of duty, where we miss out on the joy of just spending time with the Lord because we want to, and we want to pray because we want to. So anyway, I just wanted to add to that, because I appreciate you sharing that, and I can relate to it. And I don't know if you have anything else to respond with, but I thought that was a good point to bring up.
I think it's probably just a part of a lot of people's journey.
Yeah,
is kind of going through that thought process. But I think it really ultimately comes down to managing your expectations of the Lord. Like you said, expecting more in return for more prayer, more devotionals, more, if I do more, I'm expecting to get more in return. That's not how it works. And just realizing, getting to that realization earlier in your faith is only going to, project you even further, I think. So, but yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said.
We feel like God is obligated to give us this or that because we did this. And so,
Right.
the other part of that is, the more we pray and the more we obey and follow his plan, there are blessings that come with that, the joy, the peace. And it's not always exactly, we get this or get that, but we experience God more, and that's better than even anything else that we think we're going to attain or just in our selfish worldly mentality. So hopefully that's encouraging to somebody listening today and just relating to Reid's story a little bit. And then the other thing I was going to ask you too, you mentioned in college where hey, you get caught up in just kind of the college life for the first couple of years. What ended up being the turning point to where you said, all right, I've got to make some changes and really starting to pursue the Lord again? What kind of led to that?
Thinking back on it, and this is not a great answer for an interview like this, but I don't know if there was a real turning point. I think I was just, I was missing being a part of something bigger than myself, not football related. And I think, I grew up in the same church for a long time, and I had, the youth group and everything. And I was a part of, those where I had friends there, but then, you go off to college and, you kind of miss those relationships, with that religious aspect to them. That's something that I didn't have my first couple of years in college. And I think, that's kind of what pulled me back, into going back to church regularly and trying to get involved as much as I could.
That's awesome. And now it sounds like you've got that kind of brotherhood and community with your teammates in Buffalo. So you get kind of the best of both worlds there, which is encouraging to hear. And speaking of those Bills, we got to talk a little football in regards to the NFL. Coming off a 10-6 season, nice big trade, getting Stephon Diggs. Tom Brady leaves the AFC East. How you feeling? How's the team feeling just kind of at this point in the offseason?
Yeah, feeling great. Yeah, it was definitely encouraging to kind of see some of the moves that we made last week. But yeah, I mean, last season was incredible. We had a good season. A couple more, if a couple results go the other way in the regular season, we could have been looking at, possibly a home field advantage. So that's kind of the main goal. Win the division when you go into the season from the get go. But it's great. Looking forward to this season and kind of with all the stuff going on, it's actually pretty crazy right now because they just shut down all the facilities for 2 weeks, I believe. But I mean, we were supposed to report April 20th back up in Buffalo for OTAs and stuff, and that they've suspended that or postponed it indefinitely. So we really don't even have a date currently where we're planning on reporting back for workouts with the team. So I think it's going to be a while before we're back together. But it's kind of just a crazy time right now.
Gosh, it is. But as an NFL fan, I've been thankful for the NFL news, and so we've been kind of counting on. All right, at least we'll have the NFL in the fall. So. I don't know. We still don't know if that's the case, but it is concerning that the facilities have been shut down. So how has the communication been like between you and other teammates? How are you guys, just trying to stay connected kind of during this time?
Yeah, just pretty much just keeping up with each other, texting and whatnot. I try to talk to my punter and my kicker on a regular basis. Kicker Steven Hauschka, he's out in California, so he's kind of a couple hours behind. But my punter's in Buffalo right now, so I actually was just on the phone with him earlier, telling him that I'll be back in a couple weeks and we can get together out on the field to get our timing down. But that's kind of the tough part about this is that we don't know when we can officially get back together as a team, but you still don't want to lose that timing aspect because in the kicking game, that's so important. So it's just an odd situation that we're constantly trying to figure out. I feel like,
It's every moment it seems, new news and things are changing, and it's a wild time, and I'm thankful that we can, trust in the Lord during this time, and He's our anchor through it all. But definitely a lot of uncertainty for all of us, and the NFL's not above that either, which is crazy. But Reid, man, love talking with you today, and I just want to wrap up with this because I'm looking at your Twitter profile earlier today, and it says you're a Chick-fil-A enthusiast, and so I love Chick-fil-A. You're in Atlanta, the home of Chick-fil-A. So for you to put Chick-fil-A enthusiast in your Twitter profile, that means you're on another level. So what does that look like? What does that mean?
Man, I'll tell you what. I think sometimes Chick-fil-A is, I don't want to say the devil. Chick-fil-A is a bad temptation. There's like 3 restaurants with probably within 5 minutes of my house. It's not good. But no, I mean, I watch what I eat, so I try not to go there too much. But I do like to indulge myself on the odd off day that I'm not working out. Try to treat myself a little bit. But no, I love Chick-fil-A. There's no getting around it.
I love it. What's your go-to then?
I like to get two sandwiches, one of the grilled clubs, and then you got to go with the OG number 1. But I hate pickles, so I get no pickles, and I add a little bit of cheese on it. So
okay,
add my own little flair there. But Chick-fil-A is probably, I think on the maybe the 11th day, God created Chick-fil-A sauce. So
yes, I'm with you on the Chick-fil-A sauce. I go
absolutely
spicy chicken, and then I've been trying to eat a little healthier, so I'll do the Cobb salad. But I still get the little nugget.
There you go.
I get the fried nuggets on top, so it's not that healthy, but still delicious. Yeah. So, man,
funny story. I worked for Chick-fil-A for about a year in high school.
Oh, nice.
And that was right when they came out with the spicy chicken.
Ooh.
And it was, I don't know if you tried it when it first came out, but it was so spicy, like way too spicy.
Wow.
And I think they actually, they tilted it back a little bit to kind of be more consumer friendly because it wasn't doing so hot when it came out. But yeah, fun fact. I like the spicy now. I couldn't eat it when it came out, but I eat it every now and then. Now that it's more bearable for my taste buds.
That's funny because it just has enough of a kick. But I'll even add some of the hot sauce, the Buffalo hot sauce, to it. So I take it up a notch a little bit. But
there you go.
That's the sauce isn't too spicy anyway. But yeah, Chick-fil-A, good stuff. So we'll end it right there and Reid. Man, excited for you. You're getting married. So next time on the show, we'll have you on and we'll talk about marriage. But wish you the best with that. And we also ran out of time. I was going to ask you about Israel. So we'll try to do this again, but really appreciate you being a part of the show today and enjoy the rest of the off season the best you can and with all the uncertainty. But thanks for sharing your faith with us and being an encouragement to us today.
Absolutely. And thanks again for having me on. Hope I can make a small difference in somebody's life.
Absolutely. Definitely. Well, he's Reid Ferguson joining us here on the Unpacking It podcast.
Intriguing guests and inspiring conversations. This is Unpacking It with Bryce Johnson.
That was fun. Really cool to get to know Reid and just appreciate his relaxed kind of attitude and just fun talking to somebody, in a similar situation as us, where we're all dealing with this virus one way or another and how it's affecting our whole world. But to hear, hey, the NFL, they're not above this. And as much as I think the NFL is, dominant and they're going to do whatever they can to have this season, they're still limited. They still, right now they got to close down facilities and they can't avoid a lot of the shutdown that's taking place, which is just interesting because we always view the NFL as just dominant and they can do whatever they want. So we'll see how that plays out when the fall gets here. It's still only March, but I am curious to see what the draft ends up looking like. I heard today that it could be each round a night of the week. So for 7 straight days, we could have the NFL draft. Is that real? Is that going to happen? That would be tremendous. That gives us something for 7 days. Come on, NFL, we need it. Let's jump on that. But the big takeaway for me is the conversation that Reid and I had in regards to this idea that we expect God to do something for us when we feel like we're doing something for him. And so we feel like, all right, if I go to church, if I pray more, if I read my Bible more, then God owes me, or he's going to do blank in return. And I think it's a misguided view of God. And really it's too me focused. It's too self-focused. And we think that God is just there, for us to give us whatever we want, or, it just comes down to a genie mentality. And this plays out too, that, oh no, if I don't do enough, then God is going to be mad at me and he's going to, cause pain and he's going to make this happen and everything's going to be bad in my life. And so either way, we just have to really have a proper view of God, and it takes reading his word and understanding his character and what we'll come to realize. And honestly, I'm growing in this area myself, just having the right picture of God. I've been reading a couple books recently that really has it's helped with this, but it's recognizing just how much God loves us. And like we hear that and you go, yeah, God loves us. No, let that set in. God loves us, and he wants us to enjoy him, and he wants us to give up control to him, and wants us to obey him, because his way is best and his way protects us. And so he's not trying to steal our thunder or steal our fun or whatever. He just knows that we'll be most satisfied when we're most satisfied in him, and we're living for his glory, and we're resting in his love and resting in his grace. And so we'll want to read and study and spend time with him and follow him and obey, because when we recognize his love and grace, like that's when we realize that all those things, they come a lot naturally, and we don't have to force it. And we just want to please him. We're not looking for him to, do all these things just for us. But the reality is those things do start to happen, and doors open up, and as we're obedient, it leads us to the next step, and God does bless, and he shows us favor along the way, but we don't do certain things for the favor. So it's a different mentality. And sure, suffering comes, struggles come, but a lot of times that'll happen when we are reading and praying and following the Lord, because they're designed to either help us or help someone else in our life, and it's designed to strengthen our faith and dependence on him and develop our character. And so we grow deeper and deeper, even in the struggle a lot of times. And so Reid was talking about how, during that time of waiting for the next job. And so, sure, there are disappointing times and waiting periods where God does some of his best work in us and through us during those times. And so I think ultimately we've got to let go of the legalistic mentality of I've got to do, I should do, I have to do this and that, versus resting in I get to spend time with God. I get to read his word. I get to pray. I get to go to church. Well, right now we can't, but I get to go to church. I get to watch church online and fellowship with other believers. I get to share my faith with others, not out of obligation, but out of joy and out of just the opportunity to do that. And so would love to know your thoughts on this. If you have any questions, or, what is this trigger for you in your own life? Would love to hear from you. So you can shoot me an email, bryce@unpackingit.com. And I don't have all the answers, and I haven't mastered this by any means, and I still get caught up in, all right, Lord, I'm doing all this work for you. When are you going to bless me? And I'm guilty of that. And a lot of times the blessing is, Bryce, I've got you. I've got you in my care. I've got you in my hands. I'm preparing a place for you in heaven. I'm doing incredible work that you can't even see yet, but you will down the line even here on earth. There are seeds that are being planted that will bear fruit later on, and maybe it won't happen right now. And so God's working on me as well. And so I'm trying to rest more in him, meaning not putting all the pressure on me, not trying to do more and I gotta fight and it's all on me. And God's got this. God's got a great plan, purpose. We just have to be obedient one step at a time. It's really it's simple, but yet difficult to do because we want to know, wait, what's this going to lead to and what's happening next? So we can talk more about it, but I'll leave it right there for you, and I hope that's encouraging. Again, shoot me an email, Bryce@unpackingit.com. Let me know your thoughts or questions on this topic and any other things, any other opinions or thoughts or truth that you can add to this topic would be great to hear from you as well. But that's all I got for today. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Reid, and check out our other podcast as well. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, share. Greatly appreciate all of that. But as always, I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sins. He was resurrected, and through faith, I have been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well, and I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day. Hang in there. Have a great one.
For more information about the show, our events, and other resources, visit unpackingit.com. That's unpackingit.com. We hope you are encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. To support our show and Unpacking It Ministries with a financial gift, visit unpackingit.com/donate. We look forward to unpacking sports, faith, and life with you again next week.